So Vern, we're on episode 3.
Yes.
Episode 2 was fantastic. That was really good stuff. What are we going to learn about today?
Well, this is where Lieutenant Colonel Smith actually is transporting his troops over. Major Pitcairn goes forward, meets Captain Parker there at Lexington Concord, and then they proceed on to Concord.
Lieutenant Colonel
Smith,
Major Pitcairn, and then Captain
Parker of the militia.
Oh, Captain Parker is a different...
militia,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought there was going underneath that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were going to hear about 2 officers on the British side and 1 on the American
Yes.
side.
And Captain Parker was the leader or the captain of the Lexington militia. They elected him because he had been part of Rogers' Rangers during the French and Indian War.
A very
Distinguished
prestigious unit.
And he's just a really buff guy. And when you see him at Lexington Green with the other guys, he says, well, guys, what do you think we should do? And so I'm thinking, okay, what's this? What do you mean? What do you think we can? Well, he was elected by everyone else, and it's you try to get people's input, but it comes across almost weak.
Yes.
Okay, and that doesn't fit with my Roger Rangers thing.
Right.
And as the story goes on, so the militia is there, and then the advance guard under Major Pitcairn is going up this roadway here and sees them on the green. And then there's a secondary road that goes this way, which goes to Hancock's house, where he's staying. And see, the other thing I didn't realize is Reverend Clark's home is John Hancock's boyhood home. That's where he grew up. See, Lexington...
Do you think that Gage knew this?
No.
Oh?
No, he didn't. No.
Okay.
But it's very, very small area.
Sure.
So you've got this green, and the militia, 70, 80 of them, is huddled over here. 200, 220 advance guard is going in
Past
this
them.
direction to Concord. And so, and there's the meeting house there, Buckman Tavern down here, and it's overgrown. It's not like it was 225 years ago, 250. So we were there. We walked to all those places. We had a guide there. I went up to the second floor of Buckman Tavern to see where the chest was and everything. So they're huddled there. He's asking,
What should we do?
what should we do? And, well, it's just...
And he's watching Pitcairn take the
Well,
road away from Lexington.
well, he hasn't got there yet.
Oh, okay.
But once they just said, well, we're just going to have a presence here to show them who we are, but let's not start anything. Don't fire. Well, Pitcairn's coming up, and he's told his guys the same thing. And as a matter of fact...
Let's not make an incident. Let's
No.
not start a revolutionary
No.
war.
Yeah, and their guns aren't even loaded.
I didn't even know that. Well,
Yeah.
that's a real commitment to let's do it, because it takes almost a minute to load one of those brown Besses.
However, there were 2 rebels on the roadway that turned and shot at them before they got to Lexington.
What?
And Pitcairn said, load your weapons.
Do we even know who those 2 guys are? No.
I
So
don't know.
2 guys shoot at this mass of 200 soldiers, and that causes the weapons all to be loaded and also to increase probably the tension.
Yes.
How dare you shoot at His Majesty's forces?
Decisions.
And then they see 70 to 80 guys with rifles, loaded, I imagine.
Huddled over here. These 2 rebels made a decision.
They did.
There were consequences
That's
that
right.
affected the rest of the night. And they come out. Now, Pitcairn sees them huddled over there, and as best I can tell, they're just standing with their rifles there. They're not. Pitcairn, who then detaches 2 patrols to head toward them, and he's told them, we're just going to see, what are you guys here for? That was the question. Why are you here? What are you doing? And as they get closer to it, then they start to see some movement there, and then a shot rings out.
Okay, so the patrol goes up to the group on Lexington Green.
And
And
Major
they
Pitcairn,
want to know, what are you doing here?
what are you doing here?
And then another shot?
A shot comes, that's a shot, nobody knows who did, and then an altercation.
So does the patrol fire back?
They do. And they start to charge. Now,
The patrol starts to charge 70 to 80.
two patrols, they've got bayonets.
Oh.
They're 17 inches long.
Okay,
And remember, it takes a while to reload.
yes.
And they're trained. Now, while this is occurring, Lieutenant Colonel Smith comes up
with the main group.
with 500. And depending on what version you read, one version has them going on that secondary road.
Towards Hancock's house.
Yes, but again, they're observing what's happening, and they're just going to flank that. All right.
Right.
And so there's a diorama in one of the places where it was. So here are all these houses, the Lexington Green, and there's all sorts of soldiers coming up and say, "What in the world is this?" I wasn't aware of the second version where Lieutenant Colonel Smith came up, but it was only a 10-minute skirmish, 70, 80 guys.
So a shot rings out. The patrol, does the patrol kill anyone or shoot anyone?
7 men are killed.
Whoa, whoa.
Now, before that occurred, before the shot, Parker said, "Return to your homes," and what have you. And,
Rogers Rangers Parker.
Yeah. And
He says, "Guys, we're going home. Everybody just disperse."
yes.
And
Now,
then the shot comes out.
then the shot. And then he tries, to say, "Don't, just leave," and everything. Not everybody heard him. Now, there's the rest of this story in a minute here. Also, at the same time, Pitcairn is saying, "Get back, get back, get back,"
To his patrol.
to his patrol. And once again, we've got the debriefing documents that support this.
Uh-huh.
Captain Parker said, "Stand your ground. If they mean to have war, let it start here." That's, tradition says that.
But he actually said, "Go home."
Go home.
Okay.
Okay. So this altercation, 7 are killed. But then also, Jonathan Harrington is going home, which his house is right on the green.
Uh-huh.
He gets mortally wounded
Going to his house.
to his house, and he dies in front of his wife and son. I included that as part of that, one of those things that just to make this episode a little bit more real as to what is occurring. What doesn't come out in this episode, Captain Parker, Rogers
Yes, tell me
Ranger,
about him.
had tuberculosis. He was dying of tuberculosis. And if you know anything, it affects the lungs.
So
and the
that's why
breathing.
people couldn't hear him. Get back to your houses.
Yeah. He was in bed when he was notified of the British coming.
And he gets out of his bed, wheezing.
Dress up, walks 2 miles. What do you include? What don't you include?
Exactly.
We could have gone 10, 12, 15 minutes. Did not include that. That's why we want to append these little biographies and saying there's more to this story.
Yeah.
Talk about courage,
So
bravery.
Parker's trying to save the lives of his neighbors.
Yeah.
And say, this is not going to work. There's 200 of them. And now there's 500 coming up here. Let's get out of here. Let's go home. This is suicide.
Yeah.
So he wasn't trying to start a war.
No.
He was trying to save his friends' lives.
Yeah. It was important to him to have a presence, but not to do anything more than that.
Exactly.
Pitcairn didn't even want it. But
Sure.
it got out of hand.
Did the patrol come back to Pitcairn?
Eventually,
Oh, so they shot and they made sure they cleared that Lexington Green. Oh,
they used their bayonets.
they
They
did.
killed some with their bayonets, and he finally got them back.
Because of those 2 rebel shots.
2 rebel shots, another shot.
And now
but-
the anger of that patrol, and how dare you stand there with your weapons. I bet one of you was one of the one who shot at us.
I didn't think about that.
You know?
Could be.
And now another shot happens, and boom,
Bingo.
payback.
Unintended consequences. But let's talk about another decision.
Okay.
So, a surprise to the countryside after 4 hours, Lieutenant Colonel Smith makes it over there. There's no surprise.
Yeah.
And
Now
some
there's
of-
dead people.
And, well, he hadn't even started his march up there. That's several hours before they got up there.
Oh my goodness.
And some of his other officers said, let's give it up.
It's not a
It's
surprise
not a
action
surprise.
anymore. We're
Everybody-
not going to find
let's not-
anything, and we're just going to. And so did he listen to his? No.
Under
'Cause
orders, military. He was commended by Gage.
General Gage told me. Lord
Yes.
Dartmouth.
Well, I don't
He
know.
probably didn't know Lord Dartmouth.
He didn't know
but yeah.
that. But he did what Gage said. He took as best precautions as possible to make it up there. He's an officer. He was promoted to general, eventually brigadier general, because of his competency in doing orders.
Okay.
The retreat from Concord was a mess. Many of the officers were killed by the militia. As a matter of fact, coming back through Lexington, Parker and some of his militia waited behind a stone wall until Lieutenant Colonel Smith and others came along, and then
Fired.
he fired, and I
With
think
tuberculosis.
with tuberculosis, and
He and his men
somebody
get behind the stone wall and
Yeah.
they shoot.
they used the Indian warfare techniques.
Sure.
So that's part of the story that we couldn't include.
They were shooting at British officers.
Right.
Did Major Pitcairn get hit?
Well, he made it. He made it all the way back.
Okay.
So, and of course it was ragtag. But so that ends that episode. Then we'll go to the next episode, which is the last episode when they go to Concord.
That's right.